It was built or designed in the year 1968, but this is a 68-88 because it has the latest upgrade to the tank. It was in Swiss Army service from 1978 to 2005, when it was replaced by the Leopard 2. It was then located in a Swiss museum until the owners bought it in the year 2004. It has a live gun. It has a German MTU main engine. About 225 brake horsepower. Beautiful engine that. It has the British Note 7 105mm gun that was built on the license in Switzerland. And as the same as the earlier Panzer 61, it was the only tank the Swiss built themselves. They did actually build some tanks themselves in the Second World War, but they were only prototypes. So when they got the tank delivered to England, there were no Toblerones or cooking clocks found in the tank. So we go by tank. I think they must have owned the Halifax Building Society to be able to afford it. So the next heavy tank into the arena is the Chieftain Mark 13. It was described when it was first entered the British Army service as the finest tank the British Army has ever received, powered by the worst engine the British Army has ever received. It was absolutely true. The engine is a fabulous tank had they put a different engine in it. As you can see, it's a very, very impressive piece of kit. It's a much more aligned vehicle because of its poor reliability. Between now and the road has been only run for about 20 or 30 miles before it broke down. And when I was in Germany with the German Army always laughed at those television tanks because it had an oil drip tray underneath the engine to keep the drip. So now we have one of the CVRT family of another British success in the light vehicle range in the 1980s and 90s, one of the fastest tank vehicles in the world. They have a record of 75.8 miles per hour on a track vehicle. And it really does whack, it really does move. Very, very fast vehicle. So you'll see when you look at the Panzer 68 or Panzer 88 as it is now, this with the armament of the early Centurion, the Leopard 1 tank. That was built for a totally different purpose than the Chieftain which was just built. The Chieftain was built to defend NATO against the British force, the Warsaw Pact force in East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, those countries. They reckon the British Army had about 800 of these tanks in the British Army of the Rhine. The Warsaw Pact had 6,000 tanks. So the only way the British Army could ever hope to defeat the Warsaw Pact was obviously to knock out more tanks. Well done, Betty. She is a star, she really is. She's a medic in the Royal Air Force. Stars down, Betty. This is just down the road. That's the code of the period. So Becky's going to prove me wrong that she's going to drive the vehicle today. Good on you, Becky. So yes, I was telling the story of the British Army of the Rhine. So basically, you can see the tank over on our right. The German tank there. It's actually the reason for doing that is that the gun barrel is very, very close to the ground. So there's very little of the tank to be seen. So it's extremely difficult to actually hit a tank when it's in a ground hold down position. The Swiss, on the other hand, didn't have to contend with the North German plane the British Army of the Rhine did. They had obviously lots of mountains, very narrow valleys, and they needed a different type of tank. Obviously they had smaller bridges, lighter bridges, so they couldn't have a tank that weighed 56 tons. So you can see the build side by side now as we're going past. We'll see how much bigger and beefier the Keeper is. But despite what the knockers say, the British have produced some superb heavy tanks, and the Challenger 3 is now being built. I'm sorry I went silent there. I was just watching that Rio truck overtake the tank, and they were both moving at the same time. And it brings back bad memories of tanks moving. The tank drivers can't see. They're very limited in what they can see. When the tanks come up, they can't drive through like that. And people in trucks like the vehicles do have a tendency to overtake. And they wonder why they never get killed by a tank. Drivers can see, but the driver can't see. That's why they're so dangerous, and that's why I mentioned earlier on that the rainfall and the red protected vehicles so they can be seen. So now we're going to have a demonstration by the Scorpion, which will show this particular vehicle or this particular reality model has got the world record for a packed vehicle of 75.8 miles or 75.6 miles per hour. So what we're going to see today is a demonstration of the vehicle going absolutely flat out, with consideration of how much space it's got, and then just how fast it will go. Because it's a CVRT, which means combat vehicles have to be reconnaissance vehicles have to be able to go up upon the enemy quietly, observe what's going on, report back, and then if they're caught or seen, they can reverse out of the place very, very quickly. So we've got a demonstration of that. We're now having a demonstration in this commentary box on how to kill a fly. It's like a bloody windmill in here. There's arms going in all directions. You've got to go to this. Don't hit that. That's quite cool. Oh, you got it. Yeah, I was about to describe the Rio that's just gone past. In Vietnam, they converted the standard trucks, the 66 trucks, they converted some into what they call convoy patrol vehicles, because the Viet Cong were forever ambushing the convoys, moving convoys, and causing great deal of damage. All the way around. At the back, and then on each corner of them, that steel, it came over like a steel turret, and each corner was a 20 caliber machine gun in those corners. And so whenever the Viet Cong saw these trucks coming along with all these guns hanging over the side, they knew it wasn't very wise to attack that particular convoy, and that we were very sure that they had more force than the Americans did. So people think that the Vietnam War was an all-American war, that nobody else was involved in it. But in fact the Australian Armoured Corps were also in Vietnam. And at one time, before the big heavy tanks went to the Vietnam War, the opinion of the people in the Pentagon was that Vietnam and the countryside and the paddy fields and the like, tanks were not suitable for Vietnam. And so they didn't send any tanks to Vietnam at first. And then the Australians went. The Australians every day was daily occurrence. They got killed and injured. So after that, the Australians had proved by literally being there on the ground what they could do, and they were proved right. Then the Americans started sending their tanks into Vietnam, and mainly they had 48 Patton tanks they sent. It was a little aside from the Vietnam War. So we have the log from the Convoy 88. I saw somebody firing up the seagull from alongside. What interesting thing that Convoy 88 is now, because we had Fish and I had for about 10 years, we had a Leopard 1. We were the only private owners in the world to own a Leopard 1 tank. And the funny thing is, it was the same gun and the same engine in this Convoy 88 that's going around now. And it's their favourite tank. Very, very naughty in that tank. You drive around when it went dark, you couldn't see anyone but 40 around if you're one of the two. And she loved their Leopard. 875 brake horsepower, the Mercedes diesel, 312 engine. Honestly, when you drive that tank, it's not like the whole world. It's marvellous to see. Much like the lads driving these tanks, it's a great sensation, great fun. So we're going to go, I think this driving past this, I think it may be a Sultan Command base. And I'm never quite sure which is which, because a lot of them have played on the line, and they've all got names that begin with an S, so the South, Sultan, Scimitar, Scorpions, Sugar Daddy. So this particular vehicle, it may be, if I can see correctly, it may be a Sultan armoured recovery vehicle. I just can't see. Normally no, I can tell what's hanging on the back of the front that was the can't see. So here we have the Convoy Rio convoy protection vehicle, followed by a Ferret. The Leopard Mark II, another very successful light reconnaissance vehicle that followed on for the day with the Dingo. I don't believe that's a machine gun. I reckon he's been eating. So we have another day with the Dingo. Okay, another carrying past. Mark II that went past is armed with a 30 caliber machine gun. That is an observation vehicle that was designed and put into service in Hong Kong and places like that in the Far East. No, I don't think that is assaulting. It might be. I don't know. They go past, but I still never know what they are. So our wheels going past again. Our mobile phone comes into the commentary point. We don't know who it belongs to, there's no indication, so if you've lost your phone and it's got pictures on the back, and you can come and recognise them, and we can give you a mobile phone. So this call now goes out to Leah Riddleston, if that's the correct pronunciation. We have your mobile phone here. So come over to the commentary box, Leah, and here she is. Nice lipstick. So I'm a very happy customer. It's great when we can find the owner of all the lost properties that get handed.